And as such, communication has been commodified and massified. And as the accent becomes one of disintermediation, technology does the intermediation, signals being switched but opened up to those who wish both to input, that's anyone with a network device, as well as to receive. The role of producer of content has become democratized and simplified. Thus, arriving at the present here in the second decade of the 21st century, society has been and continues to be transformed in interesting ways to become collections of self-selecting communities. In the 19th century, the German social thinker Ferdinand Tönnies wrote about the contrast between community and society, Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. We're all part of society, he said, but we have choices under modernity about which communities we belong to. With social media technology, removing the barriers of geography and time, and we have seen an explosion of the specialist social science field of media studies, coupled with post-structuralist thinking to help us understand these new media, such as our author, who we're celebrating today. The traditional structure has somewhat gone in favour then of agency that is beyond traditional oligarchies, the guardians of the medium and the message. As people can actively draw down from a mass source by friending, they don't need traditional communications and expert intermediaries in order to connect. And activities that might in the past have required major resources to facilitate are now dynamic and more open. The virtual can become the physical as groups communicate intelligence about happenings, events, to join and participate in, or indeed to spread in terms of words, sounds and images across the world, even from the most remote locations. What it means is that actions in particular places or situations that once might have been closed off are now open to the many. And even passing intelligence on group interactions in real time, impacting on the tactics between rival social forces. So there are risks as well as opportunities, depending on whose angle that you take. Opportunities for self-forming communities, not bound by space-time considerations. Threats to those who wish to control what counts as a community within society, and who may wish to limit intelligence flows that prompts forms of agency unformed by access to alien, new, radical ideas and suggestions. Social media, then, is a mobilization enabler. Groups mobilize, sometimes around a common sense of grievance. Charles Tilley, the American sociologist, has helped us to understand that. And if that grievance, or perhaps more positively, a motivation, can be networked to the self-created community, then this can be liberating to community members, but threatening to those who would wish to restrain them. Balancing with that, social norms, how to maintain these in a distributed, mediated world is an important question we can all usefully reflect on. Who curates or edits content? Are the messages potentially open to distortion? And how do we, as human beings dependent on interpretation, make sure that we can do that for positive rather than negative outcomes? Who owns these things? What about, for example, those involved in marketing commercially? How can one control, direct and shape it? Brands become open to major threats. Viral messaging, as the term has developed, from interest groups and the general public, can place authority figures and institutions on the defensive. For example, to deny an allegation may do no more than to repeat 100 times the particular issue rather than to correct what it is the organisation and its leaders wish to communicate. So we need to be clear and think through very carefully those strategies needed, and to avoid simple knee-jerk responses when messages that are unmediated, uncurated, potentially uncontrolled are released to the wider world. But controlling events has become even more complicated for those who don't want to receive a particular interpretation and have instant access to a range of views. Also, so much unconstrained information without education or some form of editing to enable its interpretation can be daunting. What do we need to do, therefore? We need to educate citizens and to educate business people who interact with them. So let me move on to the educational challenges and opportunities before concluding these brief remarks. I mentioned a little while ago the phenomenon of the MOOCs, the massive open online communication systems. Education from the brightest minds to the masses. The question, of course, for educators, as I've already signalled, is where is the value for education institutions, especially as governments place the onus on paying for education on those consumers? Is it access to debate and network building, to refine and challenge thinking, and to test ideas being put forward as theoretical possibilities that people will invest in their time and also financially, confronting ideas with evidence in a rigorous way? If so, then we educators can seek to levy a charge or investment for methodological training, how to separate fact from fictional constructions, and also assessment, to give accredited awards to inform professional status, to receive trusts from customers, whether those customers are employers or indeed investors. The real prize, of course, is better learning through mutual mobile real-time exchange, blended with occupying common space-time and enabling greater tolerance for diversity. Something, as I have said, we celebrate a long history of experiencing at London Metropolitan University. But we need to enable the means for self-curation and editing and interpretation, and of course to look for new sources of value extraction, those which enable paying to resource, and to find new jobs as old ones are made obsolete. Only a few weeks ago, in a front-page feature, The Economist newspaper talked of the impact of algorithms and artificial intelligence taking on complex problem-solving, which employers of all type might in the past have paid a junior analyst, indeed not one, but many, to undertake on their behalf. So in coming to my conclusion, here are just a few final factors that we might want to reflect on. Community and society. How are the boundaries being reshaped and redrawn? Liberalisation and control, not forgetting quality assurance in content and opinion. Mobilisation and shrinking temporal and physical distances. There's a question, therefore, how are we using social media today to connect with our learning communities? Education balancing propositions and evidence to weigh them, while giving methodological tools facilitating social and community interactions and offering an accreditation of achievement and warranting expertise. A special service. Opportunities and threats, then. There is scope to address both strengths and weaknesses as individuals and organisations and societies continue on the move. Perhaps those the fleetest of foot open to capitalise on this dynamic period will be those not that apparently were limited in the past by low or physically challenged infrastructure resourcing. There's no vested interest in the status quo that can move fast. There's no need to accept legacy costs of a past sunk in big infrastructure. But we need not neglect our respect for social norms and the rule of law. We need to be mindful of the ability of people at varying speeds to adapt socially to cope with technological potential, which may appear at times alien and threatening. But promoting social tolerance for difference more readily to exposure is something mediated through social, internet-enabled communications that holds great potential for the future. Thank you for your attention.
Well, that was an impeccable delivery by Professor Stephen J. Aikens. While he was making his speech, I realized a lot of people were like sat down and watching and that and this. We might be in the book launch, but we are allowed to have some fun, aren't we? So cheer up, people. We've got drinks at the back. You can go there, have some drinks and some nibbles and all of that. We've got some few people coming while he was making the speech. We've got Mr. Abbott representing Dr. George Manuweke, NIDO BOT chairman. You're welcome. And we have Mrs. Henrietta Abraham, NIDO UK chapter chairman. Before we go to the next thing on our event, I'll quickly say we've got toilet by the right, just the brown door there. So ladies, you can go and freshen up. Most of you don't use the toilet, you just go there and look at the mirror, make up and all of that. So you're allowed to do so. And the men, obviously, are allowed to use the toilet as well. So the next thing on the list is welcoming our guest speaker, who is a businessman, an entrepreneur. I've actually had the opportunity to meet him and watch him speak. I'm sure you're going to enjoy whatever he's got to say to us today. And above all, he's a political activist who's just declared his candidacy for parliamentary in South London. He's no other person than Mr. Prem Goyal. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Bawoni. I said Bawoni. By the way, first of all, let me introduce myself by my real names. My Yoruba name is Olubadara, and those who are Igbo, then my name is Anyakaji, and I know we have some people from Hausa, then my name is Yusuf. So I'm the only non-Nigerian with 3 Nigerian names. But you can call me Olu. So all protocols are observed. I'm delighted to be here with you and thrilled to see some familiar and friendly faces. And I want to thank Godson for inviting me to speak, join so many esteemed guests at this prestigious occasion, the launch of Godson's first book, Campaign Strategies for Political Success. I want to pay tribute to him because it takes hard work and determination to write a book to change generations to come. And this is leadership in action. So please join me in giving him a huge round of applause. I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the water to create many ripples. I believe that these words of Mother Teresa capture the essence of our journey to the UK with dreams of reaching the top. So I would like to share with you my journey from India to the UK. It is a journey that I realize is shared by many people here today. My story began 7,000 kilometers from here in India, where I grew up, the youngest of 11 children, During my summers as a child, I would stay at my sister's place. Her place had no bathroom, no running water, and one electric bulb when it worked. I remember collecting 5 buckets of buffalo dung every day, which I would shape into pancakes, slap them on walls to dry, and then use for fuel. Through hard work at school, I won entry to the Indian Institute of Technology, one of the world's leading engineering universities. And with the support of my family, I earned my bachelor's degree in 1986. And based on my academic performance, I won a scholarship to pursue higher education in the US, but my excitement at flying for the first time was short-lived. The second I stepped off the plane, I dropped to the bottom of society. For the first time in my life, I was a fish out of water, a new language, a new culture, and a new socio-economic level. I was dirt poor. I remember telling myself that I had not come to New York to settle at the bottom of society. I would work day and night and rest only after reaching to the top. After overcoming several setbacks, including recovering from a brain hemorrhage and getting my green card, I earned an MBA from UCLA in 1994. I was awarded the Dean's Outstanding Student Award, the highest award given to any student. When I was not studying or working overtime, I would use my time to volunteer as a firefighter and to work on my accent. By the way, I never had any accent problem in India. After graduation, I joined Goldman Sachs on Wall Street, and I was interviewed 31 times before I got that job. I told them I only get better with every interview. After jumping over hurdles one by one, I launched Global Markets Consultants, a management consulting firm in New York and London in 2002. And my company has won preferred supplier recognition from Deutsche Bank for 9 years in a row. To recognize my contributions to economy, I was invited by the Queen to have lunch with her on the top table in 2011. And last year, I was awarded an OBE. After saving millions of pounds, I retired at the age of 45 to pursue my charitable and political interests. I have raised 150,000 pounds for charities by completing London Marathon and climbing Kilimanjaro. Last year, Ade Lasaki, a former councillor and community champion in South London, and I set up a new political party, All People's Party. This party has been set up to help talented people like you to become a councillor in 2014 and a member of parliament in the UK in 2015. We should all be proud of travelling 5,000 kilometers to the UK to create a better future for our families and for our children. We have mastered 2 languages, 2 cultures, and 2 socio-economic levels. But somehow we are struggling to reach to the top in the UK and fulfill our shared dreams. Godson is right when he says voting should be based on plausible and possible manifestos with which the consensus would be held accountable if elected. However, too often we don't hold our politicians to account. As a result, we get exploited by major political parties who use us as foot soldiers forever. They value our votes and not us. For example, Labour Party takes 70% of our minority votes and treat us poorly. Let me give you 1 or 2 examples. In his 63-minute speech at Labour conference last year, would you believe Labour leader Ed Miliband did not recognize our contributions at all? That is after getting 70% of our votes. He did not even mention us at all. In another example, Southern Labour leader Peter John has publicly said this: "We are already giving free school meals to minority children. What else do you want?" Of course, I don't even need to talk about how the other 2 political parties treat us. Remember the go home van on our streets? My friends, in exchange rate term, because I come from the finance, we are giving 1 British pound to these politicians and they are only giving us 26 naira. That is a discount of 90%. I look at our parliament and I say, where are our African leaders? Where is our voice? And the bottom line is, we need to change. From now on, we want 260 naira for every pound we give to British politicians. I therefore believe now is the time to have our own leaders in the UK. As JFK taught us, things do not happen, they are made to happen. And there are 3 things we can do to become the masters of our destiny. First, we must master England the way we have mastered Nigeria. You can do it, I know you can. Let us challenge ourselves to become leaders at the top in England now, the way we were back home in our own country. To start with, you can become college governors, or run London Marathon, or become magistrates. I believe that at least 10 people in this room at this time are qualified to become Member of Parliament in the UK in 2015. Second, let us win top leadership positions on our own credentials. Just imagine, if Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg had joined Microsoft, Microsoft would have discounted him heavily to benefit itself. But what he did, by relying on his own superior skills, he went independently and outsmarted Microsoft. Similarly, Labour and other parties are discounting us 90% in order to benefit their brands. Since we know we are talented and we can reach to the top, we must win these elections independently based on our own credentials. Remember, power must be taken, it is never given. Third, follow Godson's lead. To fulfill his dream, he has joined All People parties to become a councillor in 2014. Just like me, he wants to fight for the equality at the top. We believe that by tapping the talent of all citizens, we can build a stronger UK, our home country. And there is no better example than the London Olympics. It showed us that the key to success is to use the full potential of all citizens, not some. And I'm determined to use 100% of my savings and my time to make Godson and another minority leaders victorious in 2014 and 2015. Success will happen when all people can fulfill their dreams and not just those who are born into privileged families. Success will happen when we don't just praise diversity, but when we have diverse, talented people at the top. But as Nelson Mandela taught us, we must work collectively to succeed. So let us work together to make the change we want. And ladies and gentlemen, this is my dream. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brian Goyle. Now, it's Olu. I've never come across a Nigerian with a non-Nigerian with 3 Nigerian names. In my way of saying that, we say Wazobia. Does anyone remember that? Wazo, that's what you just described there. So thank you very much for that statement that you made there. And it's critical that what he's done there is to charge us, all of us sitting down here today, basically, as to how we can make impact in this land that we find ourselves in. Now, Henry Ford says something. He says, coming together is the beginning. Keeping together is progress, in a sense. And working together, basically success. Now, we're celebrating a success today, but as it's charged us today, that is really what we should be looking at doing. Am I correct in saying that? Absolutely. So another round of applause for Okay, so at events like this, you have no choice but to succumb to protocol, basically. So my co-presenter did do some acknowledgements, and I would like to continue with that acknowledgement by recognizing a few more people. Now, the podium, two book reviewers in that sense. I want to believe, have read Godson's book, and they are to come to the podium and give us a review of that, of the book, this fantastic book we're launching today. So I would like, in the first person, like to call on Dr. Godson, PhD holder in political science.